I want to transition for a little bit and talk about, your style. Obviously, you're extremely well educated from, the work you've done, but also your formal education and around strength conditioning programs. You've been doing it for quite a while at a big time, football program. Just kind of curious if you can give like an overview. What is your approach as a coach in strength conditioning? Call it, if we can maybe give a high level. I know there's a lot of detail in this, but maybe an overview as far as in season versus off season training for your football team, without giving away too many secrets to
Yeah,
your rivals, of course.
absolutely. Um, so if you were to walk in our weight room at any given time during a lift, you would see multiple different programs happening. So we have a 5-man staff. Each person on our staff kind of has their different specialty, their different niche, their group that they're going to work with. So typically our team is going to be divided into there's the base team program. That's the guys who are playing a lot, the guys who travel. And that's going to be divided up into our big man position groups, our linemen, our tight ends, our linebackers, and our skill position groups, receivers, running backs, DBs. And the big men are going to train differently than the skill guys. And then we've got a completely different quarterback program. Then we've got a freshman program. Then we've got a developmental program, which is for some of the older guys who aren't playing as much.
Hmm.
So we're able to push them a little bit harder. And then we've got a whole group of guys who are modified, whether it's recovering from an injury, or they just need some sort of special accommodation. We have a ton of different programs going, and for as far as philosophy for football strength and conditioning, we've got to be very diverse. We can't be set in our ways. You know, um, Really, it comes down to defining what is the goal, what is the purpose of the training. The training should reflect that. And then as far as what the specifics of that will look like are going to depend on the individual. Because on our football team, we have about 110 guys and we've got multiple different position groups. The physical demands of the different position groups are different than each other. Within the position groups, we've got guys who are built vastly different than each other. So, we're not having all of our guys do the same thing. There's certain guys in our program who are not going to squat because they're not built for it. They're the tall, extremely long-legged basketball type receivers. Um, so the name of the game for us is you know, it's kind of an art figuring out, okay, what does this type of guy need versus that type of guy. And but as far as in season, off season, obviously right now we're in season for our main team guys, the guys who are playing. Um, it's very low volume. They're training. They train with us 3 days a week. So on Wednesdays they'll do their lower body lift, they'll squat. On Thursdays they'll do upper body and they'll bench. And then on Sundays, the day after the game, we're getting kind of a total body, you know, dumbbell work, some bodybuilding type work, some correctives. But volume is very low in season for those guys. We'll rotate. We'll do 2 weeks of strength work where we're touching on some heavier weights, and then we'll rotate to 2 weeks of speed and dynamic effort work. So
Mhm.
that's how we periodize it throughout the season. 2 weeks heavy, 2 weeks dynamic effort, 2 weeks heavy, 2 weeks dynamic effort. That way we're maintaining the strength that we built in the off season by touching
Yeah.
on heavy weights periodically through the season. And then we're keeping the guys explosive. We're keeping the guys primed by having those speed weeks in there. So we'll do a dynamic effort squat. We'll do a dynamic effort bench press. And then, a lot of programs will traditionally do some sort of Olympic lift, like a power clean. We don't do that in our program. We've gotten away from that. That's kind of a conversation in and of itself. But we
Yeah,
do
I've
a,
heard
a
that.
trap bar. We do a
I was
trap bar jump shrug.
sorry, I was gonna go ahead. I was just gonna
Um,
mention I've heard that there's like some that are like really for the Olympic lifts or cleaning, and then some strength programs that are against it. Is it a higher risk of injury you found? Is there? I know it's a probably a whole episode in itself, but are there any like key bullet points as kind of why you'd steer against it?
yeah, so I mean, Power cleans, that's the most common Olympic variation you'll see in football programs. It's kind of been just a stereotypical traditional lift in strength and conditioning for football, which it's a training explosive triple extension. It makes sense. But the thing is, a clean is a sport in and of itself. The technique demand to actually reap the benefit of a
Yeah.
clean where you're actually fully explosively triple extending, it takes a lot of work just to teach that. And when we've got 110 guys trying to get everyone doing a complex movement truly correctly, like a power clean, we are wasting so much time and energy and effort just teaching it and then troubleshooting errors and correcting technique. When we get our freshmen in, we were spending so many weeks just teaching the power clean from square one, building it all the way up. And still, we'll have guys who are just not built well for it, who just can't quite get it. So we opted towards, hey, let's train. These guys are not Olympic lifters. They don't need to be good at cleans. They need to be explosive.
Right.
So we opted for finding a solution that was going to have a much lower learning curve to where the guys do not have to spend years learning how to do the thing. They can just quickly learn and get right into training. So we do a trap bar jump shrug. So we will set up a trap bar elevated slightly off the floor on crash pads, and the guys will basically just explosively jump at the top, shrug, kind of similar to how pulling the bar on a clean.
Yeah.
And very easy technique wise. We'll put a bar accelerometer on it. So there's Tendo units out there. We use a perch system, which is basically a camera mounted on the rack that reads the speed of the bar, and then there's an iPad tablet that reads out the velocity of the bar. So we're getting an instant readout. How fast did that athlete just pull that weight? And then we'll use that to program, and then the guys use those speeds to compete with each other. So we're basically just taking a very simple explosive movement that's much easier to learn. Everyone can do it, and we've made it effective and competitive.
Nice. Yeah, I might have to steal that one. That was there's a strength coach here in Michigan, Clarkston football. It's a one of those more powerhouse high school football programs, and a guy who's running the strength program wasn't doing a lot of Olympic lifts or variations of it or power cleans. And I asked him the same thing because I was volunteering this last year and helping him out, and just curious. And he said the same thing. Like, I have 40 to 50 kids. Some of them, I'm teaching them how to do like a bench press or a bicep curl. He's like, it's just the scale is so wide that he just said, like, let's get really good at these core ones. But one thing you were talking about, I want to make sure we touch on the dynamic effort. Can you talk a little more about what that means for maybe those who don't know? Just what certain, do you have any accessories you use with that, and just kind of walk through what that uh,
Yeah, so
overview is?
dynamic effort is basically speed work. It's just kind of, similar to the purpose of power cleans and the trap bar jump shrug, cultivating that explosive power. With a dynamic effort squat, for example, we're taking a relatively a lighter weight, typically somewhere between 50 to 65% of max on the bar. We use chains in our program. Most people use bands or chains. The reason being, when you're lifting, as you get closer to the top of the movement, the lift becomes significantly easier. Your body's going to have a tendency to slow itself down as you get to the top. Well, when you put chain weight on there or band weight, the weight gets heavier at the top of the movement,
Mhm.
which forces you to accelerate through the full range of motion. Um, so dynamic effort training, like I said, the two movements we apply it to in our program are the bench press and the squat. We're generally doing sets of two. We've got chains on there. We've got the perch system reading out the bar speed, and we have a goal speed, a minimum goal speed that we're trying to hit. That's one way we'll program it, or we'll have a set weight, and then we'll say how fast can you move the set weight.
Did you have
Um,
like time intervals in there as far as in between each set?
yeah, so
Was that
we'll take shorter rest periods between our dynamic effort
yeah
work. It's typically going to be, you know, minute to 90 seconds between
yeah
between sets. working on their ability to maintain that explosive power set to set to set.
Are you seeing, yeah, I mean, I'd imagine it's different between in-season and is it 5 sets of 2, 10 sets of 2? Is there any kind of general sweet spot you try to get them in,
Yeah,
or
so 5 sets of 2. That's
okay.
been kind of a rep scheme that we've loved,
Okay.
and a common one out there. Now, if you look at West Side Barbell, you'll see a larger number of sets. You'll see some programs out there doing like the 10 sets of 2 or
Yep.
10 sets of 1. But for what we're doing, the time we have, and all the other things that we have to touch on, we'll go a little bit lower volume with it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I was gonna ask you too, just one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong again, this is your world much, much more than mine, but you talked in strongman about like anterior load. A lot of my understanding, at least, back when I used to do more strength conditioning in football, and so this may have changed, but was like a lot of posterior chain work. Is that kind of still a lot of the focus is like that lower back glute hamstring development? Can you kind of walk through maybe a, how important is that for an athlete, and B, just kind of maybe some of the movements you do there, even if there's a competitor listening that wants bigger glutes and hamstrings? What are some of your favorite movements or techniques to develop that area from performance wise and size and strength?
Yep, huge focus on posterior chain development. There's an old saying that the anterior muscles are for show, the posterior muscles are for go. It's the speed and power of it's going to come from your posterior chain, the glutes, hamstrings, lower back. Um, so what one movement that we are a huge fan of, and that I've personally become a fan of, are Nordic leg curls. Are you
Okay.
familiar with Nordics?
It sounds really familiar.
It's one you could probably pull up on the Google image search. Nordic leg curl. It's basically, if you can picture a glute ham raise, it's like doing a glute ham raise with no fulcrum against your knee. You're just flat on the floor and you've got your feet secured and you're
Okay.
lowering your upper body down at the knee. It puts a tremendous amount of stress on the hamstring. Um, that's one movement that we love, especially for our skill guys who, putting a big emphasis on speed development, but then also just hamstring durability. Um, and then we'll do RDLs.
And kind of something like this, maybe, or
Yep.
whoop. Uh, there we go. Kind of, I don't know, but okay.
If
Yeah.
anyone out there ever wants to a very humbling challenge,
Yeah.
developing the strength to do a single rep of a unassisted Nordic hamstring curl is a true test of strength and hamstring durability. Yeah, so that's a movement that we like for our guys, and then just a lot of the traditional movements, RDLs, deadlift variations, back squatting, reverse hypers, glute
Yeah,
bridges.
reverse hypers is a big one for me for my lower back. That was like
Yeah,
a game changer, and I wish the gym I was at had it, so I tried to come up with variations.
yeah, but like you said, we place a tremendous amount of value on posterior chain development for our guys. A lot of the injuries we see in football are hamstring.
Right.
So from a durability and injury prevention standpoint, posterior chain focus is very important. But then also just like we said, speed and power that's going to
Right.
come from posterior chain. So,
And
you
is
know,
that something is that something, I guess what would you attribute the injuries, the hamstring injuries to, more from a exercise science or kinesiology standpoint? Like, is it certain imbalances, or,
yeah, I mean, sometimes it's an overworked hamstring, sometimes it's a weak hamstring.
got it.
And then sometimes it also comes down to poor sprinting mechanics.
Mm,
Um, you know, it- the weight room work, that's only half the work we do with our guys. In the off season, the field work is, I mean, honestly, probably more important for these guys than the weight room work is itself. So the speed development, the change of direction and agility work, the conditioning, we put a big focus on teaching proper sprint mechanics, and that is going to go a long way in preventing some of those hamstring injuries.
got it. Well, good stuff. Well, I wanted to, I know we're coming up a little bit on time here, but I wanted to wind down with some kind of more rapid fire questions. Some might be single word, some might be a scale of 1 to 10.
Do-
Some we'll let you elaborate a little bit on, but we'll call this the shoot, move, and communicate section. So it's going to be quick, fast acting coming at you. So the first one will give you a little bit of a layup. You can elaborate a little more than the one word or scale here, but we talk a lot about find your battle, or what is your battle, like being where we say at First Detachment we're battle tested, as far as our products go under nutritional support. And so I'd love to hear just kind of a little bit about when we talk about, or when you hear find your battle, like what is your battle? What's the thing you kind of look forward to, like, attacking each day?
Developing freaks. If I had to put in the simplest way possible, that's
Nice.
always been for myself, for the guys I work with. I want to work with the freaks. I want to build the biggest, strongest, fastest humans possible. That is absolutely my obsession in life.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, next one is a one worder. So now we're going to challenge you a little bit. What would you say to an athlete that's facing adversity?
One word. Damn. This is a tough one.
Maybe two words.
Uh,
We'll throw you a bone.
can I get a little context here of what type of adversity we're facing?
Let's say during a strenuous or difficult workout.
Brotherhood maybe, because
Okay.
a lot of this football, it's we say it's about the guy next to you.
Yeah.
You know, when these guys are going through the hard conditioning, it's like, look at the guy next to you, right? It's a team sport. Everyone is in this to win. And if you're quitting, you're letting your teammate down. So if you
Yeah.
can't do it for yourself, then make it about your teammate.
No, I think it's great because it's transferable with family and business and sport. Being around those people you care about and love and can lean on. And then when you have nothing left in the tank, you just look over, you're like, all right, I got this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate.
Maybe accountability would be another better single word there. Like
No,
being accountable to your teammates.
they both fit. Perfect. All right, just transition a little more broader. What would you say to a high school athlete trying to get noticed by a major college football program out there?
Is this a one worder? I've got one.
Nope. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
If it was a one word, I'd say produce. I mean,
Produce.
it's all about what you put on film.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, they think they can kind of finesse the system by going to all the camps and doing all this, all the highlight videos on YouTube. It's like, produce, put it on film. And if you are a college level football player, that is going to be reflected in your production at the high school level. If you are not producing at the high school level, I assure you, you are not going to produce at the college level. It
Yep.
is a production business. So you can go all the camps that you want. What ultimately matters is what are you doing under the Friday night lights, right?
Got it.
So
Good deal. All right, a little shorter answer now. That was a good one. So produce was the word there, but most important meal of the day, if you had to pick one.
pre-workout meal.
Got it. Scale of 1 to 10, how important is sleep?
8,
Scale 1 to 10, how important is nutrition?
10.
Scale 1 to 10, how important is training?
Torn between 8 and 10 because my argument here would be with out of training, nutrition, and sleep, the nutrition arguably might reign supreme out of the three. I'll give training 10. I'll put it on par with nutrition.
All right, good deal. All right, in one word, can you describe strongman?
I don't. I think this might be a. We'll put a hyphen in it. Grown man.
All right, I
I'll be
like it. Grown man.
grown man strong. There's you see, in powerlifting, you can get away with being a great, having great leverage and technique in a sumo deadlift. When you have to lift those heavy, awkward implements, you better be a grown man and strong man.
I do have to say, I got my butt kicked at my strongman meet, but my at the time girlfriend, now wife, had this awesome picture of my hands are all bloody and there's tape on them and everything. 'Cause I ripped them open in the previous
Oh
event and
yeah,
I'm setting a stone up and I'm like, yeah, it was just like, I
that's
was like, no
strong
one
man
has to
for
know
you.
that I got my butt kicked at, but I got that picture, I'm like, that's right.
Yeah, no singlets in strongman.
Nope, nope, good deal. All right. And then kind of lastly, just And if you need to elaborate after, feel free. But just one word to describe your profession as a strength coach.
Selfless. I think as a strength and conditioning coach in football, it's got to be about the team and it's got to be about the guys. Um, you know, if you're trying to make it about you as a strength and conditioning coach in football, you're trying to just climb your own ladder, get the next job, chase the money. Uh, Things tend not to work out. But when you are really working to serve the athletes,
Yeah.
everyone in the building sees that, and the whole team is going to benefit from it. The coaches are going to notice that, and you're one small part in one big system. There's a lot of important people in that building. So just having the humility to know you are not the most important person in that building. This is primarily about the athletes you are coaching. When you take it a little bit more into the perspective of you're in service to the guys, you're trying to help them reach their full athletic potential, which is going to allow the team to win.
Yeah.
I think that's when you're really going to have success.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us and coming on today, Jon. Tons of wisdom. So really excited for the audience to check this out. As we wrap up, just that friendly reminder, guys, leave your comments in the comment section, subscribe, click the notification, all that fun stuff. Tell us what you'd like to hear more of. What you'll be seeing parts of this come out in different shorter segments, and then as well as the full video, and we'll kind of slice it up, and we'll look to do some more collaboration with Jon in the future. We definitely want to follow him as he pursues his Strongman Pro card and kind of walk alongside him. That's kind of what we're all about here at First Detachment, just helping people find and conquer their battle. So appreciate again your time. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll see you.